Anti-Semites own the Democrat Party. Will they actually hand Donald Trump the White House? Welcome to the Jason Rantz Show, presented by None Better Tax Resolution. As a Jewish American and a conservative, my expectations from Democrats are rarely high. And yet the decision to select Tim Walz as the Democratic vice presidential candidate over Josh Shapiro leaves me disappointed. Not because Walz is a threat. In fact, picking Shapiro would have had me actually worried about Trump's return to the White House. I'm disappointed because this choice is more than a political maneuver. It's a clear capitulation to the anti-Semitic progressive base. Let's not kid ourselves. Anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party isn't some phantom menace. It's a tangible, growing cancer. We've witnessed anti-Israel protests that quickly morphed into outright Jew hatred, progressive activists openly cheering for Hamas and Hezbollah, and the shameful boycott of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to Congress. These are not isolated incidents. They're part of a broader pattern of hostility towards Jews, oftentimes thinly veiled as political dissent. The anti-Israel protests are often endorsed by progressive leaders. The sentiments of these Jew-hating rallies are shared by squad members like Jamal Bowman, Ilhan Omar, and Pramila Jayapal. The activists chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is a call for the eradication of the Jewish state. They openly praise Hamas, which they call freedom fighters. This isn't just rhetoric. It's a call for genocide. And it's being tolerated, if not outright endorsed, by the Democrat base. It's in this context, Josh Shapiro's candidacy represented a potential turning point. As a moderate Democrat and a proud Jew, Shapiro could have signaled a firm stance against anti-Semitism, a much-needed rebuke to the toxic elements within the party. And yet instead, the Democratic leadership chose Tim Walz, a hyper-partisan that they're pretending is a moderate.
Tim Walz, I know very well. He served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat.
Moderate? His biggest proponents were Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Pramila Jayapal. He praises socialism. He gave driver's licenses to illegal immigrants, and he turned Minnesota into a refuge for gender surgeries for kids. What he is what he isn't. He's not a Jew. Shapiro was rejected because he's Jewish. Pennsylvania is a must-win state for Democrats. They're currently trailing there. He's considerably more moderate, and he's uncontroversial to everyone who doesn't identify as a new Nazi. It's a tragic irony that the party, which prides itself on inclusivity and fighting discrimination, would shun a candidate precisely because of his faith. Choosing Shapiro would have been more than a symbolic gesture. It would have been a strong, unequivocal statement that the Democrats stand against anti-Semitism. It would have shown that the party actually does value the principles of equality and justice over pandering to extremists. Here they failed. Now, for those of us who are both deeply concerned about anti-Semitism and we're politically conservative, this is a stark reminder that the fight against hate is far from over. The Democratic Party's refusal to confront this eternal issue head on means we have to fight even harder to defeat it. And while it's certainly hard to defeat a more nebulous enemy of anti-Semitism, it's much easier to organize and defeat a Democratic presidential ticket. I sat down with our local tax expert and advocate, Greg Nunn from None Better Tax Resolution.
Tell me a little bit about the Fresh Start program, because again, based on how it's promoted, it seems really, really simple.
This Fresh Start program and that phrase has been around for many, many, many years now. But it's a great marketing tool to say, hey, fresh start. And in a way, for those that qualify, it is. What it essentially is an offer in compromise. And to get that, there's two main criteria a person must qualify for. One, they must have limited or no equity in assets. So generally, anyone in the Puget Sound region that owns a home and has for several years, they're going to have a lot of equity. They won't qualify. And the other is an income level. And that all depends upon your family size about how much income that could be. But both of those standards need to be met to qualify. Most people do not.
If you're having trouble with the IRS, then call Greg Nunn of None Better Tax Resolution. From stress to success with IRS Solutions. 425-947-1967. or Google NUNN, none better, tax resolution. If you like that commentary, make sure you subscribe to the podcast of The Jason Rantz Show. Get it at KTTH.com or wherever it is you download your podcasts.